November 30th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is the last day of November for 2023. I only took 2 trades today, and I'm actually not particularly thinking they're very good trades, but I was profitable on both, so it just happened that both trades worked out. But after further review in hindsight, I think I see all kinds of problems that I have with taking those trades. Overall price action was kind of challenging today. It was very tricky. I'm going to go into it and explain why. But there was only one piece of economic data that came out, which was at 5:30 Pacific Standard, which was the core PCE and the unemployment claims. Came out right about here, where my cursor is. And even before then, the prices were rallying, and then it looked like it kind of created a big sell-off. But overall price action today, as I said, was tricky, challenging for me because a lot of the setups that came up for second entries that I marked, there were enough ambiguities that made me feel like they weren't high probability for one reason or another, because they just look like they're traps and kind of iffy. So this looks like a lot of things, a lot of setups could be available. But for me, I mean, overall, the total range was 45.44 to about 45.79. So it's about 35 points of range. But as you can see, even though it spanned the entire range, most of the time it only bounced and fluctuated within, let's say, about a 10 to 15 point range. But even then, even when you look in closer, it was even tighter. So I'm going to go through the trades and the setups that I saw, and I'll explain to you why I thought a lot of them were, well, it was hard for me to feel confident in the setups that I saw, and a bunch of them, I feel like if I had taken them, I don't know that I think I would have made me feel nervous about it. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Try to put this back. Okay, this is the pre-market. Pre-market prices were just kind of chopping sideways. It rallied. Here is where the news comes out, and as you can see, it's pretty whipsaw and ugly. It's just like a lot of knee-jerk reactions, but even then, it was only about a 6 point fluctuation. It's not as violent as you would see in an FOMC interest rate meeting, which is actually going to come up in a couple of weeks. Prices sold off, and then it started on the open. So let's see here. Okay, so I saw this downtrend, and right now I'm thinking prices are going to be range bound because it looks like it's going to respect this pre-market low and stay probably within this pre-market high. There's already one leg down. It chops around, consolidates. I don't trade the pre-market, but I looked here to see if there's anything that I really liked, and to be honest, I don't think I liked anything necessarily. Prices then opened. I don't have this green channel drawn just yet. I do have this as a potential range, this blue rectangle. Prices go down. There is a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. This is a good signal bar, but you don't really have any basis or validity to take this trade because all it is a second entry long with a good signal bar, but there's no other key entry points to make you feel warm and fuzzy about taking this trade. I did look if there was a potential measured move from here to, let's say, here, but as you can see, it hasn't made the measure move yet. Even if you drew it a little bit more conservatively from here to, let's say, here, you still don't have a measured move yet. So there's no trade there. Prices then chop around. Now I do draw this as a top trend line, and I try to match the bottom to be roughly about right here. But then there was some overshoots, so I dragged it a little bit lower, ended up being roughly right there. Respects it, bounces off. There's this big rejection, but unfortunately there's no setup here. Chops around, the new high, first entry long, that's all you get right now. Comes back, it kind of respects and rejects off the top of this down green channel as well as the EMA. But unfortunately, again, I don't see any clean setup that I like. Prices go down. You do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. The second entry long, this is the signal bar that you would see. So even when you see this print, there's nothing telling you to get a trade ready. Then once this hits, you're running into the possibility of being rejected by the top of this green channel or by the EMA. So definitely didn't have any inkling to get a trade ready. Prices then continue moving. I do see a new low here. I see a first entry short, second entry short. Now, when I saw this in real time, I saw, okay, there's a second entry short. It definitely failed because it broke below, and then not only that, it engulfed the previous candle. But I felt it was an aggressive trade because I mean, yes, it could be seen as a triple test support, one touch here, two touch here. There's a breakout here, and you could argue there is a third touch here, but I'd rather have not have seen this breakout here. So if this wasn't here and it just had three touches, then I'd be more inclined to take a move back up because right now the overall bias is telling me it's not really range bound at the moment. It looks like it's breaking down below. This is also the first break of this green channel down. So it made one attempt down. This could be the first attempt down. This could be a push up. And I don't know what the next candle is going to be, but it could be the second attempt down to touch this extreme. So I wasn't really sure. I wanted a more, even then, I wanted this to be more bullish, like maybe at least break through the EMA or close at the top. So that gave me pause and I decided not to do anything. Looks like the next candle would have worked. You would have been entered on the trade. And here, around here, depending on if you're going for 1 or 2 points, you definitely would have gotten your scalp. Prices then continue moving up. I'm just watching now, sitting on my hands. It breaks back into the pre-market range. So this pre-market high, pre-market low. And I'm just watching carefully. It breaks out of this consolidation, so I'm thinking it's going to come back down and test the lows of this. So it's one push up. Made a small little attempt here. It looks like it failed, and it's pushing back through the EMA. I'm watching. It looks like it fits into this green channel pretty nicely. Technically, you have a first entry long. You do have a second entry long right here because one push up, but this is a terrible signal bar. Nothing is really giving me confidence to try to take a long here. I want to see what happens and plays out. But if you did take a long, it looks like you would have gotten filled. And depending on where your stop was, looks like most likely you would have gotten stopped out. Prices then continue moving. I do see a potential support right here. So I'm just going to draw this right in here. And I'm just watching now. Prices continue moving up. I saw one leg up, pull back, and I'm thinking there's probably a potential measured move up here. So I'm watching to see if prices get up to this blue line, which would be complete the one leg up, pull back, second leg up. If it hits here, maybe it'll be time to go short if this down channel is still in play. However, it did recover quite a big portion of the move now, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just watching. Moves up, it touches it barely, then it starts rejecting back down. Unfortunately, I don't see a setup to try to take a trade here. Technically, you have a first entry short, second entry short, third entry short, but you could group this as one leg up. So it'd be first entry short, second entry short. But even if you're thinking of taking a second entry short, believing the measured move is complete, this is a pretty bad signal bar, this big green one here. And when you see this one close, this one isn't that much better because it didn't close at the bottom. It pulled right back at the end and it closed right here. So by the time this candle forms, it feels like it's already a little risky now because you're running into potentially the EMA coming into a bounce. And so that's something I saw. I just decided it's not worth taking a trade, not really anything to mark. Prices then continue moving. This is where I take my second trade. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback, creates a second entry long, and then it creates a second entry long. I'm anticipating a failure. So I'll admit that this one was a little bit eager and early. I jumped in because I thought, okay, this is obviously coming back down because it closed pretty nicely. Actually, I took the trade before it closed and it actually closed below my entry. And I thought, okay, that's pretty safe. But in hindsight, it was actually kind of risky to have taken this because it did break below the EMA. I counted this as an EMA rejection, although the body's too far away. And I didn't consider at the time that I'm running into the pre-market lows. On top of that, you already broke up to here, made the measure move as one leg down, push up. The second leg down, it kind of completed the measure move already. So whether it continues down or bounces up is anyone's guess. So this wasn't really a high probability trade that should have been taken. Prices then go down. I was lucky to get filled and got out. And it looked like it would have worked, if I was going for 2 points. So I was lucky in that regard. If I stayed for any longer, this candle likely would have taken me out. The prices continue moving up. It gets very, very choppy. Then it flashes down. You have a new high, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long, but there's nothing here telling me to go long because you could also see this as one leg, or you can see as one big leg, push back a second big leg. You could say it's bouncing off this potential support right here, but this support is a little iffy. It did break through. It's making higher lows every time, but then this one's actually a little bit lower, so it made me a little confused. Prices move up. I did see this lower high, so it's a new low here. First entry short, second entry short, but you could also see this as a new high. First entry long, second entry long, and then this lower high I thought if you take this, it's a little aggressive because you don't have that much room to scalp out. And it is, excuse me, you don't have enough room to scalp out, but I did like that as engulfing this. So if I were to enter, I would have had to have entered while this is engulfing it, but then I had to be pretty confident it's going to push down below. But nothing here is telling me to take this trade or get ready for it because there's no other key entry point. Prices then continue chopping. It falls into this trading range. It has a failed breakout, it looks like, or potentially a breakout pullback. Chops around, turns out to be a failed breakout. You have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but you have these two candles side by side. It's not really giving you a good indication that the second entry long is a good setup. Finally, you have one tiny break above. So maybe you would have taken this trade right here, but I decided it wasn't really worthwhile. Then prices continue moving. Let's see here. It creates a first entry short, pulls back, second entry short. Now I took this trade as my second trade, and I actually like this trade because this actually could be a failed second entry short, first entry short, second entry short. Here it fails, but it also could be a new high, first entry long, second entry long. You could have counted this as a higher low, but it is below the EMA. However, the EMA has just been kind of everywhere today, other than the beginning. So it's below price action, above price action, below and above, below, and here it's above, and here it's also below again. But what I did like about this setup, this failed second entry short, is it's bouncing off the bottom of this range. There is enough room to get to the top of the range. It did fail for sure, and it flashed up. So what I did was when this one closed, I put my entry one tick above the original signal bar to give me a little more room instead of one tick above here. I was able to get out, comes back, it creates a higher low. Now this higher low, when it forms, I don't think it's a good enough setup to take a new entry, but this higher low gives you confidence that if you were already in a trade and you're managing a runner, then you could say, okay, I'm going to actually stay in here for this runner. And also, to give more backup to this particular setup here, is that coming from a failed breakout, and it was kind of at the lows. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it's going to bounce back and create another overshoot on this side. Nevertheless, there was kind of at the low of the range, so I felt confident I was able to at least get a scalp out of this. Then prices continue moving up, drops around, and the reason in hindsight, I looked at this is it isn't very, very clear at this point that this is a true range because it is kind of ugly and inconsistent. So that was one drawback that I thought about after the trade already happened. The prices continue moving up, moves up this orange channel, comes back down. Your first entry long, second entry long was a terrible signal bar, so you wouldn't have thought to go long. It also closed below. Prices continue moving, flashes down, creates a first entry short, and that's all you get. Here I drew this as a potential downward channel, downward trading trend line, and I wasn't really sure where the yellow was. It was actually higher than I actually had it down here. Here I do see a new low here. It's a first entry short, pulls back, creates a second entry short, but this second entry short feels like it's already too late. It's a good signal bar. It's rejected by the EMA, and it's coming off the rejection at the top of this yellow channel. And I was thinking maybe there's a purple channel. Now the purple wasn't actually here. It was actually a purple trend line. The purple channel comes in later, but I wasn't sure if this line here was valid or it was the purple one. But nevertheless, in both cases, it's coming off the top. So it does look like this would have been an okay setup, except you don't have enough room before you hit the bottom. Then it creates a new high, first entry long, second entry long. Now I'm thinking if prices truly are coming back down, because right now, everything seems like it's kind of trending lower. If this was a gigantic trading range, it has a bearish bias because most of the time it's spending on the lower half. So when I saw this, I'm thinking, okay, if there's a potential failed second entry long, the next candle has to break below, but this isn't even a good signal bar. So it felt, for sure a little risky, but it is being rejected by the EMA. This green channel doesn't exist yet. So it flashes down, it confirms the failed second entry long, but this candle is just too gigantic. It was an almost setup. It needed to close definitely below this guy to confirm this failed failure, but not this big, because now there's no room to confidently scalp out. Price is going to continue moving, kind of keeps chopping. I drew this intermediate green channel coming down to see if there's any kind of setups that I could find. There are second entries, but they're not very clean. It comes back up. I can see a new low here. So first entry short, pull back. It creates a second entry short. Now the second entry short, it's a good signal bar, but I'm not sure if this break of this yellow channel is actually an overshoot. So it's going to one push up, pull back, and it creates a second leg up. So taking a short feels risky. Or if this purple channel is actually in play now, because I actually drew in this one thinking, okay, there might be a bounce. It could be one push up, pull back, second push up to at least touch either this one here or this one here. So this second entry short, if it closed a little bit more bearish, I would still feel a little iffy about it just because it looks like it's one leg up and it looked like it would want to create a second leg up. So I was looking for a failed second entry short, but it never shows up. Prices then continue moving. It creates another overshoot on this side. So now I'm giving more confidence to the purple channel because it's actually containing the price action a little bit better than the yellow one. It creates this four top consolidation area, drops down. After this move, I was looking if there's like a first entry short, a second entry short, and this could have been a lower high, but this could have been a first entry short, second entry short right here that maybe was worthwhile, and I just missed it. So prices then continue moving down. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go back and mark this now that I see it. By a second entry short, a potential trade here. Prices then continue moving down. It breaks out of both the yellow, if you're still playing the yellow, and the purple trading channels. I do see a failed second entry long here because it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, or if you count this as one leg, it'd be like first entry long on this green bar, then second entry long, and then I'm waiting for the failure. Let's see. This second entry long is a, let me see here, checking my notes. I might have mismarked this. Like first entry long, second entry long, third entry long. Actually, first entry short, second entry short, or it could be first entry short. Yeah, this is, let me see, this might be a strange anomaly. It did set up above the EMA, so it's first entry long. I don't know why I had marked it like that. Let me get rid of it. So there's actually nothing here I think was worth mentioning. Prices can continue moving down, breaks out, chops around. You have a first entry short, second entry short, but it didn't break below the EMA. And it's a very not good signal bar because it still didn't break below this really, really big green bar. By the time this one closes and you have a confirmed second entry short, it's a good signal bar, but you don't have enough room now before you potentially hit the localized bottom. Prices then continue moving. Just sitting and watching. So it gets very choppy. All day, I've been watching this, at least up to that point, and things just didn't feel clean. It was more volume and volatility today, but it felt a little trickier today for me. I know this is probably most likely due to lack of experience and lack of skill reading the charts, but nevertheless, I know there have definitely been days that were much more obvious and easier to read than today. Prices then continue moving. Technically, you have a new low here. You have a first entry short. You technically have a second entry short here, but on the visual, you have one leg up, first entry short, second leg up. You could, yes, there is a break here, but you could be watching and waiting for a second entry short. I drew this line because I thought there was a potential, some kind of resistance here. And there was some kind of resistance I thought was right here. But the bottom of the trading range, it was either down here or down here. But I wasn't really sure, so I was just playing resistance and support lines at the moment. Prices then continue moving up. I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. Now this is actually what I thought is a possible trade because this is the first time it came back and touched the EMA. And not only did it break down at the last moment, it pushed it all the way back up past its open and closed near the top. So this is a first entry long, second entry long, probably a worthwhile trade to take because I also like that it closed above the EMA. It's the first break of this green channel. You could count this as the first attempt up, and this is getting ready for a second attempt up to test this high. So that's what I was thinking, but I didn't take the trade, and it flashes up, and it just kept going. If you didn't take the trade, you do get a higher low here, but the problem with this higher low is too far from the EMA. You don't really know of, you're kind of already breaking through and making new highs here. So it feels a little risky, like it could turn at any moment. So I left it alone. If you took the trade just super confident and this was a good enough setup, then you would have been pretty rewarded nicely because it just kept moving upwards. Then prices continue chopping, falls in this orange channel, this consolidation area, which is just too congested, breaks down, continues downward. And here's what's really interesting. So all day you have been selling off, going through this super noisy whipsaw action. And here it's around 12:30, with only 30 minutes left. The whole price action takes everything back, all the way back up to the highs, the pre-market highs, as you're going to see. So prices start rallying up, and I didn't see any news to indicate this. It just people were recovering, bulls were coming back in. You do technically have a new first entry short here, second entry short, and then potentially second entry short failure, but you don't have any clear indication to go long here. Consolidates. Here it does bounce off the EMA, and I drew this yellow channel first. I was thinking it's a break of the yellow channel, test and made a new high. This red channel hasn't come into play yet. Here, when it creates this touch, then I drew this as a potential trend line. But again, here, you don't really have any good, clean indication. It's too far from the EMA. You're just kind of playing off of maybe this green channel, but it just didn't feel that confident. And plus, you're in the last 10 minutes of the day. So I'm going to actually just draw a quick line here as the last 10 minutes of the day. Well, I was just holding my cursor here. As you can see, there's so much price action in the last 10 minutes, but these candles are very tiny. They printed very quickly. So there's a lot of closing out of positions, moving all the way to the top. And the top of this gray line is the pre-market high. So as you can see, in the last 30 minutes from way down here, it took almost everything back. It moved about 20 points all the way back in 30 minutes, whereas the whole day it took about 6 hours to move 30 points down. So today definitely was, I would say, a little more challenging for me. It was a little confusing. There were a lot of setups in here that I just didn't feel confident about for one reason or another. It just was a little ambiguous. I needed a little more experience watching charts to feel probably confident in what I was looking at. But since I didn't have that, and I don't have that yet, a lot of these felt iffy. I did take two trades, two of them that both worked out. They're, in hindsight review, probably weren't as safe as I thought. And I think the only one probably really confident trade that I should have took, but I never did, was right here at around 11:30, the second entry long, which was actually probably a really decent setup because it broke out of the green channel, made two legs down, bounced off the EMA, closed above the EMA, good signal bar, would have made a pretty good trade and enough room to scalp out. So hopefully that was helpful.